Welcome to my WIP and story time. Today I am talking about how I started working at 14 years old and how that affected my life. Let's talk about what I'm working with first though. I am working on Seasons Change by JoJo's Art. I started on March 20th of 24. It's this beautiful image right here. My husband's really excited to hang this on the wall, and these are the specs. Square, this is how big, and I got it from DAC, which is Diamond Art Club. I am using between 3 pens maybe, depending on what's going on. I just grab these 3 pens always. This one I got from Amazon. It came with the storage kit, but I found a company that does ones like this, and I want more because I love them and they're pretty. And then I have the 2 pens that I got from Diamond Art Club. I eventually want to get metal tips. I will be using the wax that we get from Diamond Art Club. And I have museum putty inside the multiplacer part. I am saving those because I want to do a test with ABs. Anyways, longest intro of my life. Let's just get to the point. Oh, I also wanted to point this out. I did a test on writing on my boards, or whatever this is. This is called a tray. And I got little pink on them still. That's so cute. I know a lot of people would get irritated by that, but I don't mind at all. Okay, I'm gonna stop rambling. All right, so yes, I started working at 14. Me and my mom went to try this new cheesesteak shop in town, and I loved the food for one, but they were so busy. There was a line wrapped around the building, and it was our first time there. We were there with a few people, and my mom laughingly made a joke saying, "Hey, why don't you get a job here?" Just like as a funny faux pas, you know? And I was like, do you know what? I'm actually gonna ask if they're hiring. She was like, "You're 14. That's not gonna happen," you know? And she kind of was like, "But you can try." Well, I went up to the manager and I was like, "Are you guys hiring?" And she is just running around like her head got cut off or something, like a chicken. What is that saying? A chicken with its head cut off. Anyways, that's a little morbid. She was like, "Yeah, sure. When can you start?" Just like without thinking, like, you know. And I was like, "Today." And she goes, "Okay, cool. I'll see you later today." And she told me to come in at a time, I think it was like 4 or something. Like, she knew I was young, probably didn't think I was serious. So I go in, I start training that night, you know, and she was like, "Okay, we'll work on your paperwork and all of that. The boss is gonna be in. I'll introduce you and he can talk to you." Now, I got in, you know, I'm looking around, I'm like, I seriously just did this, you know, and I didn't realize that the age limit to work in a restaurant where I live was 15, and I think 15 and a half. Like, we were right to work state, so we could work at like a grocery store or very limited options for very limited hours. Super regulated to prevent child labor or whatever, I guess. And my mom was just like, "I guess if you want to work, you know, you just got to be responsible and do what you can." I was like, "Okay, I'll be responsible." And I've always been pretty responsible doing my stuff, so she was okay with it. She just kind of laughed. So we finally get to me working the boss never really showed up the first night. Something happened, and, you know, so I worked with the night manager, and he thought everything was a go. So I worked that night, and then I showed up, I think 2 nights later or something like that, and did what anybody else did. I just continued to work, and they kind of just assumed my paperwork and all of that were done. And then finally, after the first, I think 2 weeks of working, I meet the boss. And he's like, "You haven't filled out any paperwork or anything. Here's your first 2 weeks pay. I'm gonna do it cash, but we have to do your paperwork." I'm like, okay, crap. Because at this point, I had already learned that you can't be that young working in a kitchen. I was like, crap. So I lied on the interview thing. Like, I put my birthday, but on the actual paperwork, but I didn't think that he would read it. So I just kind of lied and told him I was old enough. Eventually, he found out a couple weeks later that I was a lying liar face. But I had already been trained at that point. A few months, or like I think a month and a half, 2 months had passed, and I was doing good. I had proven myself and was, I'm looking for the symbol. I don't like the way I organized these. I was, trained. Like, I was already doing good. My mom was loving that I was making my own money. Like, she wanted me to do savings or whatnot. And I had gotten my own bank account. And he was like, I guess we'll just pay you under the table until you turn 15 and a half. So I did that. And then by that time, I'm saving for a car. Now, my mom, she was like, look, I don't want you to have to pay for the car by yourself. Like, she really wanted to be a part of helping me buy my first car, like when I get my permit and all of that fun stuff, because she doesn't drive. My mom's never really driven. She doesn't like it, and I can respect that. I wanted to drive. So she decided, I'm going to match you. Whatever you put in savings for your car, I won't match you. Perfect. So I get my first car, and I'm still working, going to school. My school was a joke, but I did it. I was going to school and just enjoying life. Like, I would pay for everything. I thought I was rolling in the dough. I thought I was the richest bitch out there. I was the youngest one of all of my friends. Not really. Like, they were definitely like a year older than me, but still, like, I was the one that had the money, the car, and my parents didn't buy it for me. I did it by myself. Well, with the help of my mom, but still, I was the shit. And I thought I was rolling the dough. I know better now. Like, I was making pennies, minimum wage at limited regulated hours because I was young and in high school, but still, I was able to pay my own bills. I had my own bank account. I had my own phone. I had paid my own car insurance, gas, lunch. Like, I was grown. And it kind of complicated my relationship. Like, my mom was proud of me. I was doing what I needed to do, and I was being responsible, and it was keeping me out of trouble for the most part. And I still did dumb teenage shit, but who doesn't do that? But, like, my mom would go to ground me, and she'd be like, you're grounded. I'm taking your phone. Okay, take my phone. It's under my name. So what I would do is I would give her my nice-ass new phone that I just bought, because, I had to get every new phone that came out. I was a rich kid now. And I would give her the phone, and then I would have this little itty-bitty, like, cheap flip phone, and I would just go down to my phone provider and switch my line over from my nice phone, because my mom had it now, and switch it to the cheap little phone, and I would use that, keep it on silent, hide it in my room, until my mom would give me my nice phone back. If she'd take my car, I grew up walking. Okay, the car was the luxury at this point. It wasn't a necessity. It was not a need. It was just nice to have. So I'd be like, okay, you can have my car. I will just walk, and I have this school project, or I got this going on. I need to go do this, and I would walk. She never really, you're not leaving the house for a month. It was, we're going to have a long discussion about what you did wrong to be grounded. These things are going to be taken away because they're luxuries, not needs, and it wasn't like, you're staying home for a month, which I really think did well with me, with my learning and whatnot, to be inconvenienced but not have my necessities taken away. You know what I mean? Like, if I needed to go get out and see friends, like, I was still allowed to do that to an extent. My curfew, of course, would be earlier, or instead of going out to a friend's house, sometimes she'd just be like, no, you're in trouble, let's have them come over. instead. So she never really took away my social life as a punishment. It was long discussions, sometimes yelling and screaming because, you know, teenage brat. But it was always very much, you know, this is what's happening. And that really kind of affected our relationship because I was sneaky and I would like, you know, fine, I don't care. I'll just walk. Or, okay, fine, take my phone. I'm going to go behind your back and not care. So she would always get frustrated. Like, why don't you care that I'm taking these nice things that you spent a lot of money on and you've worked really hard away? And it was just, I knew that difference. And I don't think that really clicked with her until we were older and I told her what I was doing and why I didn't really care. But I don't know, it was just fun, you know, and I was always like my mom's driver at that point. Like she didn't have to take the bus or cabs as much. I didn't have to walk everywhere with her. I didn't have to worry about her walking back and forth to the grocery store, you know, a million times. And I maintained that schedule for a long time. Now from 14 to 17, it was learning, you know, the working, getting my car and doing that. But by the time I was 17, I got promoted to manager. I'm talking like I got a good pay raise too. Like I was kind of impressed with my boss. Like he was always kind of a cheapie, but he treated me well in that aspect and was like, here, you already basically run everything when I'm not around. You overrun and overshadow my actual manager. He is moving on to bigger, better things and whatnot. Oh, that other manager, he taught me how to drive. You know, my mom didn't drive, so I had to have someone do it. So it was my boss and the manager at the time of my job. Anyways, you know, he was like, well, since this manager is going on to bigger, better things, do you want the opportunity to be a manager? So here I am, a 17-year-old petite little girl weighing like itty bitty. You know, I was tiny for my age. And managing these adults, like the other people, yeah, there was a couple other teens that worked there, but I was like the young one. I was the baby of the group, managing these people that were anywhere from 20s to 50s and managing, doing inventory, helping with payroll, training people, head cook, line cook. I could do it all. I could do everything from back of the house to front of the house. So I took that opportunity. I was hiring, I was firing, I was just doing my thing. And I really put value into wanting to, you know, to work. I loved it. I loved having a job. I loved having that independence. I loved everything about it. I wanted to work forever, which really is unfortunate because it did overshadow my schooling, which is what my mom wanted to prevent. But by the time I was 17, I was already close enough to being an adult that she, you know, couldn't really reinforce that. I was already basically grown. I was showing responsibilities of being able to maintain paying bills on time, being responsible. I mean, I was still going to school, but I wasn't actually doing the work, and that's what confused her. In my mind, I was like, what's the need? Like, I had no interest. I didn't have time for hobbies or anything like that either. That's cool. It has stuff on it. That's trash. Uh-oh. So I kind of upped my hours and decided I'm just gonna stop going to school, and I moved out. And my mom, you know, I had a co-sign thing and I moved out. I got my own apartment and did that. And I moved out with a boy, which was really stupid of me. And my mom was like, don't do it. But I guess you're gonna do it. And I did it, and it was stupid. But still, I paid the bills. I wholeheartedly pretty much did everything to maintain that whole household, even with a supposed significant other. And yeah. So at this point, I'm 17, manager of a shop, you know, basically dropping out of school. I decided I'm going to get a second job. I like money. So I did that all the way up until I met my now husband. I mean, when we met, I had 3 jobs, you know, because I like bringing in that bacon. And I realize now I had less freedom than I do being a stay-at-home mom of 2, you know, and a wife and running the household. And running my household is harder. Like, this is the hard job. Excuse me. This is the hard job for me. You know, I could not adjust. It took years for me to adjust from always being on the hustle, always working, having these really strict schedules, not having time for myself, not having time, you know. My husband was working on the mines, so he would be gone 3 weeks, home 1 week. And that was just his schedule. And I had 3 jobs. So I would literally get off work at like 1 in the morning, drive up, go see him. He would most likely have to leave the next day, you know, at 6 in the morning to drive out of town to work on whatever mine he was doing, because he traveled. He didn't work on a specific mine. He worked on different mines through the state, even sometimes out of state. So that was a pain in the butt. And then I got pregnant and I was like, I can't maintain 3 jobs anymore. Like, he's gone a lot. I'm working a lot. A lot of our relationship was established through over the phone or just really valuing that time that we had together. So that really affected things, and that's when I had to do like a mind shift. And that's when the mind shift, like, what do I bring to the table other than work ethic? And that was a struggle, even from the time of feeling bad. Like, I had that weird guilt of feeling bad because I'm not working 3 jobs. Like, who can maintain that for a long time? I did for years, but who, like, realistically, I didn't even know what the hell a hobby was. So I had to adjust to that, from going from 3 jobs to 2. And then my husband was like, I really don't want to miss out on this. So he gave up his really, really good job on the mines and, you know, was working for an old company that he used to, and, you know, just a paint company that we could live through and whatnot. And we moved in together. We had a roommate, granted, but we moved into each other, like, with each other, and started, you know, growing from there before we got into the place we are in now, which we moved in here just before our daughter was born, just over 9 years ago. But it was, once again, the baby came and I took maternity off, and I thought for some reason I could go back to 2 jobs. And I worked until like 4 days until I had my daughter. Like, it wasn't like I'm gonna enjoy this pregnancy. I just could not relax, and it worried my husband. He's like, honey, you realize, like, we can't maintain this. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. You know, he's like, we're both working. You're working overtime. I'm working full time. Like, we're gonna have a baby and you're gonna, you know, want to take care of it. You know, like, it just wasn't clicking that my whole life was gonna change. All because I was so driven to work. My value was work, once again. I have the baby and I realize he is right. So then I talked to my jobs. I quit 1 job, which was really sad. I really enjoyed working there. I was a waitress. And I talked to my other boss, you know, from my original job. Because at this point, I am still working from, 14, and this was 22. I'm still working at the same place, my first job ever. Like, remember, I am working there all the way through until the end. And I was like, I think I want to take a year off. You know, it just kind of hit me, like, I need to be a mom. Like, I actually did it. I actually had a baby. Like, this thing is real. And I think that was one of the hardest mind fucks. Sorry for the language. I do that. I'm not making for kids. It was just one of the biggest mind fucks for me, is going from driven work. Like, I like to work. I like to have have something to bring to the table. And it took me years, you know. So I took my year off and I went back to my old sandwich shop. Like every once in a while I would call and be like, do you need any shifts covered? Like I kind of want to work. And I would just go in for work to work at that same shop for fun. Like they'd be like, yeah, I guess like we can give someone the night off and you can come in or whatever. Like it was that hard for me. And after that year, I went back to work. I kind of had 2 jobs again for a while. I was bartending and I would take shifts at the sandwich shop and whatnot. And then, of course, we get married. I have my son, and now I have 2 kids. And this is when I kind of was like, do I want to be a stay-at-home mom or do I not? So I'm thinking back on all my experience, how much I enjoy working, how I like, you know, not having a spending limit. I'm not saying like I'm a crazy shopper. I hate clothes shopping. So it's not that. It's just I like knowing I could stop and go to lunch or go get whatever random necessity, or not even a necessity. Oh, look, that's really cool. I want it, and just get it. You know, I've never really worked with a budget because of that. My husband's like, this is not normal. We need to talk about money. And so I had that hard lesson to learn too. Like, and I also had to learn the mind shift of it's okay to not bring my own income. Like my husband literally thinks that whatever he makes is mine too. Like this is my job. So I had to kind of learn how to not ask for money. Like I always felt like I was borrowing from him, and he never really understood that. He was like, honey, you are a career. Your life, like just being alive is a career. Like you make life for all of us possible. You know, there's no way that I'd be able to survive without you. And I just was not comprehending that. I was like, can I get groceries? He's like, you need to stop. Never ask if you can buy groceries. Go into our app, make sure we have the money, and go shopping. Like it's not, can I spend this budget? And it was just this really weird, like uncomfortable, I'm spending your money, and I didn't know how to evaluate it as our money. And I'm still uncomfortable with it, but I'm definitely a lot better about it. And I don't know, after having my son and thinking about it, I went back to work a couple of times, or I'll like randomly get a call from an old job and be like, hey, can you come fill in? But I'm definitely not working. And that also leads me to, I've learned about hobbies. I've had the opportunity for the first time in my life to try different hobbies like this. Back in the day, if I would have seen someone doing this, I wouldn't understand the value it could bring, just the enjoyment of sitting and not gaining any financial anything from this. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's the point of doing that if you're not going to gain from it? I had that mentality, and now it like, I'm enjoying this just because I enjoy it. And it's such a weird spot to be in, to know I can sit here and just relax and do this. I learned I could read as many books as I want. I can do so much now. Like, this is such a beautiful thing that I have missed out on years of my life. Like, I didn't understand hobbies. Not only did I not understand hobbies, I didn't understand like craft or whatnot. I've always loved reading. I have always been a big reader. But I always thought it was something like, I treated it like I have to binge. You know, I have this random half day off because, you know, what's a day off when you have 3 jobs or 2 jobs and kids and, you know, 2 jobs, kid and husband, you know. So I never had time. So yes, I absolutely love reading, and I would treat it like, okay, I have to binge. I have this half day. I got my mom to watch the kids, and I'm going to read this as fast as I can. I'm not going to leisurely any of it. You know what I mean? Like leisurely read a couple pages, have it, make a cup of tea, have some lunch. Like, no, I was devoted to sitting down and reading for 4 hours straight just so I know I can get it done and not have to worry or wonder what's going on with that book. So I got into that really bad habit of just doing that to where the kids would go to bed and I would read for 5-6 hours straight and be extremely tired in the morning. And I would feel like I had to be on the go and I just could not sit still. I also think it has to do with my ADHD and ADD. So I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I never thought that I was affected by anything like that. Like, I've learned so much about myself. And that's kind of took away from my teen years. Like, I never thought of it like these are what else I could be doing. You know, just hanging out with friends or just doing something I enjoy to enjoy it. No, instead I decided to do working and going to school and picking up extra shifts. Excuse me. Like, I would go over my hour limit because when you're young, or at least here, you're only allowed to work a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of time on certain days and not too late at night. And I would get past that limit and I would literally just get paid cash. Like, I was the only reliable person in that whole shop. Out of all of the adults that worked there, I was the one everyone leaned on. And I would just get paid cash. So it's just, I don't know, like, it took away so much. And it makes me think, like, well, am I going to let my kids get a job young? Or am I going to force them to figure out what they learn to enjoy and, I don't know, do things that I never really did. Like, I didn't know I would enjoy diamond painting or even thought that I would, or even learning different crafts or getting into different hobbies like band and, you know, sports and things that take other people, normal kids do on normal weekends or whatever, instead of being like, oh no, I work these 2 jobs. I can hang out with you for an hour in between, or hey, let's go get some food because I haven't eaten. You know, and that would be my hang up time. Or my friends really liked shopping, and this will go into another story time, but like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hang out and we'll go shop here. Like, no, that was my time I valued, not because of the shopping, because it was the time that I would get to see with my friends. And of course, I was the one with the money, so of course I would front the bill. And I did have one friend that actually got a job with me at the sandwich shop, the cheesesteak shop that I worked at. And that was fun because we got paid on the same days and she liked to shop. And of course I'd get cute stuff too. And that would be like our Friday payday thing that we would do. So that was another way, is I would get my friends roped in to working with me and being like, okay, well, if we can't hang out, just we have the shift together on Thursday. Like, that's when we'll hang out. And it was just weird, and I'm just now realizing how not normal that was. Even my mom, she would kind of be like, honey, do you think you should be working too much? Like, what about this? Like, don't you want to do this with your friends? And honestly, I didn't. You know, it was just like, oh, okay, no, I'm gonna go, I have to work. Like, it was that type of mentality. And then also, my mom was a single mom, so I always loved and respected and appreciated how much and how hard she worked. And she also took that time that she wasn't working and made it very valuable to me. Like, that was some of my favorite times with her, was when we weren't working. It was just, or when she wasn't working, or if I wasn't working, it was just special things that she would do. Like, we would go out to eat a couple times a month, and then we would try to recreate the meals that we would eat, you know, and it was just like those things that I valued so much more with the less time that we had with each other. So I think I also liked that. Like, I would rather work a lot and value the little time that I have with you than see you all the time and it be just a thing. Like, I thought I had more fun seeing people less. See, it was like all this weird skewed shit sometimes. Like, I don't know. So now, like, I'm valuing time more. I'm enjoying seeing my kids all the time. Like, I have a routine. I am sleeping more now in my life with 2 kids and having crazy schedules and regimented routines and stuff than I did in my younger years. Like, I never had a regular sleep schedule, or I would have bad insomnia because I wasn't used to it. I would, open up the sandwich shop, do a mid shift or a night shift at my other job and work until 2, 3 in the morning. And then the next day I would be at one job, and those were my lucky half days. And then I would work 2 jobs the day after. And then it was always just rotating between the 3. Like, I never really had full days off. And when I did, it was a rare occasion. And it's just, that was my norm. That was my normal, and I love it. And I'm not going to lie, I do miss it sometimes. But yeah, I guess I can be done with my tangents. But overall, lesson learned. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to have a slower, less fast-paced life. Like, I was so used to always being on the go that whenever I would have random half days or a full day off, I didn't ever make plans. It was, I have this half day, we're going to do this now. Because I had the time at that moment. Like, I didn't understand, or I couldn't really be like, oh, hey, we are going to plan this for this day at this time for this amount of time. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I have this time off. Let's do this right now. I can do this right now, so we're going to do it. We're going to go meet with these people. They're doing this now, and I would invite myself, and that would be my time to join whatever. So, yeah, I guess slowing down, learning hobbies, learning how to enjoy just being slower and healthier. And I never really understood planning food or any of that. So there's definitely pros and cons to starting working young. It definitely affected my things in my life that I never realized until deep into my stay-at-home mom life stage. Oh, I pulled that out for a reason. There it is. So yeah, that's my my working story, lessons that I've learned, how it's kind of affected, growing up and being young and working, ways that it got me out of being grounded, even though I was supposed to be grounded, and affected my relationship with my mom, and how it could affect relationships with friends. Definitely a lot less time. I guess I'm just lucky that I enjoyed it, and I still think back on my teen years or my kid years or even my young 20s and whatnot. I enjoyed it. Thank you for listening, and this is my second story time. I really enjoyed just going down memory lane and thinking about the life lessons that I've learned and how it's changed and whatnot. So if you like that, please subscribe, and comment down below. When did you start working? What was your first job? Mine was a cheesesteak shop. And I forgot to mention that my job, the first 6 to 8 months, was peeling 50-pound bags of onions and dishes to put down the liability until I turned 15 and a half and could legally work in the kitchen. I smelled like an onion for a majority of my 14 to 15 age gap. Yeah, so tell me all that fun stuff, and bye!